All right, well, good morning, everyone. My name is Eli Storch. As you can see, I'm not Elise Veeder. I've recently taken over as the chair of DAG after Elise's excellent tenure as the chair. So I wanted to introduce myself. I came up through DAG, was on the Historic Preservation Task Force for DAG. I'm an adaptive reuse architect whenever I can get my hands on a project like that. Moved into DAG steering committee and came up through there to the executive committee and have taken over as chair. So I'm very excited to be here, excited to host this September DAG monthly meeting and introduce myself to everyone. So let's kick off here. Two announcements sort of to get us off and running. The first is to remind you, as you can see on screen, we're being recorded. DAG is typically off the record, but given the technology and the ability to post this on our website to get it to a broader audience, please know that, and I'm sure you've been alerted by your Zoom that this is being recorded. So this is on record. Also, if you have any issues throughout this presentation, so you can see David Brownlee and Claire Adler in the chat box. You can say hi to them and let them know if you're having any technical difficulties, and they'll do their best to sort you out. So before we start with our regular announcements, I know that George Claflin, who is one of the advocacy gurus here at DAG, has prepared a brief presentation about the Penn's Landing RFP announcement and the Durst proposal. So I'll turn that over to George to get into that.
Thank you, Eli. Certainly the most exciting news in the design and planning world of the last few weeks has been the selection at Penn's Landing in the Delaware waterfront, Delaware River Waterfront Corporation. And we have some slides here. We're at the wrong end of the slideshow there. There'll be a test on this later. This is the Esplanade, the park that will cover both Columbus Boulevard and I-95 and join Old City to the river. On the right is the Market Street, so-called Market Street site. This is the proposal as it was made by the planners prior to the RFP going out. So this was Cooper Robertson and Kieran Timberlake as planners. Next slide. Again, notice down by the marina, down by the basin, notice the echelon formation of the plan there. And you'll see that again in one of the proposals. So these two, the next slide I think shows the two sites. Yes, the white outline covers the two sites that were the subject of this RFP. And the Delaware River Waterfront Corporation had an interesting plan of engagement. The engagement occurred during the planning process, and they proposed to have it occur now after the selection, but there was not an engagement process during the RFP process, which lasted from about November of 2019 to last week. Okay, they had objectives, and I will just note that two of the objectives were keeping views open, or let's go on to the selection actually. In the selection, which was related to the objectives, they wanted to keep the views open, and they had a program for each site that was residential. So that was their intention as stated in their RFP. And we're going to just blast through the four projects and give you a little bit more information about the selected project. So, okay, here's the overview of the four, but you'll see them again in a moment. So let's keep going. The project teams are listed here. Again, we're going to go right through that. This is the Penn's Landing Community Partners project. The design consultant was WRT and Hassel, which is an Australian firm that has an office in San Francisco. And note the towers on the Market Street site, which are to the right, and then the mid-rise to the left south of the hotel building at the marina. Okay, let's keep going. HSBE is Harris Blitzer Sports Entertainment. This is the Sixers proposal with Cooper Robertson as the master planner. Okay. The main thing to note here is that this is 25 pounds in a 15-pound bag, in the sense that the arena is widely perceived as a dead duck in terms of the edge conditions and the kind of engagement of pedestrians that it permits. The arena is on the right on the Market Street site, and the project is very dense, and they proposed a number of things that were not in the RFP, such as building on top of the parking lot for the hotel that already exists, and taking over a few sites that were not in the RFP. Okay. The Hoffman is also with a joint venture with Gattuso. John Gattuso, excellent developer who came out of Liberty Property Trust. Their scheme, again in the next slide, very dense. This is the Market Street site that is in the foreground of this proposal, and the buildings are not so tall, but they're very dense. It probably could not have rated too highly on the view blockage issue, but it had it certainly had some other nice things about it. Okay, the winning team is Durst, and this gives Durst several other sites. They already have several other sites on the riverfront. Their architects for the main Market Street site were Pelly Clark Pelly, working with Hargraves, who are the landscape architects for the park itself. And then the Marina Basin site, Bjarke Engels Group, big, but more to come on that. Okay, let's go to the slides quickly. Towers, it permits views through it. There is a podium and there's a street there that we'll see a little more of in the plan. On the left, notice again the echelon formation or the curved top formation of the multiple buildings, pretty much similar to the illustrative plan that was prepared prior to the RFP. So I'm not sure how much Big actually did on that, because Big was identified as the architect for the marina site. Okay. Here's the plan of the Market Street site, and there you see a street called Penn's Landing Road that connects Chestnut Street with Market Street. Yes, and David is running the cursor on that, and it has supermarket, retail, food hall, and various park functions on the riverside, and it's somewhat elevated above the river or above the esplanade level. Okay, and then here's sort of character views here from the south looking northeast, seeing the bridge in the background. It is dense, and the towers are somewhat repetitive. Okay. Street level, the food hall, as viewed from the park. Again, looking north. Residential entrance and the street overview. And then I think the last two slides, this is the plan of the marina site. And then the last one is a view in front of the marina site, so-called marina site. DAG intends to participate as fully as we can in the engagement process that will now ensue with Durst and their team. We also have representation through CDAG, the Central Delaware Advocacy Group, which enjoys one seat on the Delaware River Waterfront Corporation Board. So I'll stop right there.
One quick question, George, that came in through the chat was whether the project will include any mixed income housing, or will they be paying it off into the city fund like the Laurel did?
I'm not sure. I don't want to answer it incorrectly. I think their emphasis was they seem to have less emphasis on mixed income than some of the other schemes, but I certainly suspect there's going to be very serious pressure on them to increase that proportion, but I don't know.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing the update. We've reached out to contacts at Durst, and we're working on bringing them in probably early next year to do a presentation in addition to the public meetings they're going to hold as part of the ongoing process. So hopefully we'll get them in soon, and we can ask them in person. So thank you for sharing, George. So speaking of upcoming programming, I wanted to throw it over to Marcia Moss, who is our programming director and takes care of a lot of these programs, and to give us a little heads up of what's coming down the pipe.
Unmute yourself, Marcia.
I just did. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so thanks, Eli. And this month is special because DAG is presenting 2 programs. The second is on September 30th at 6 p.m. when Howard Steinberg will be leading a conversation with Dominique Hawkins and Yu Wu and Betty Turner and Veronica Ayala Flores. They're going to be discussing how to democratize historic preservation and asking what is its role in upholding or dismantling structural racism. And then on October 15th at 10 a.m., Tanetta Graham and Brandon Taylor will be discussing the Strawberry Mansion Historic Home Repair Project, which both will be great. So please tune in. And now back to you, Eli.
Thanks, Marcia. So because we're doing these on Zoom and we're able to record them, you'll now be able to find past events on our website. So if you go there now, Rising Up Commemorating Caddo and Black Historical Figures, which was our last DAG monthly meeting, if you missed it, is up there, and you can watch the recording of that video. So before we get to our speaker, last couple bits of business. We have a new DAG feature on our website, calling it the DAG Dispatch, and it's a weekly feature where we're putting together news stories from the week that'll come out Monday morning, so you can take a look at the beginning of your week for some news stories, and we're trying to keep that up to date once a week to provide a resource there. And beyond that, that's part of our DAG forum, which is an open forum to anyone who wants to participate. So please, if you have anything you want to submit, any ideas, anything you'd like to write, please get in touch with either Claire, the DAG fellow, or David Brownlee on the link on our website. And so before we go on, I wanted to reach out and see if anyone had any announcements, any events upcoming, anything they wanted to share. You can put it in the chat. We'll ask you to unmute. So if you have that, please put that in the chat right now, and we'll give a minute for those to come through to see what announcements are out there in the community.
Looks like a quiet morning.
Yeah, it looks like it. So yeah, give it another few seconds. If anyone has something, please feel free to share. And seeing as it doesn't seem that there are any additional announcements, I'm excited to move on and introduce our speaker today, Shalimar Thomas. Shalimar serves as the Executive Director of North Broad Renaissance, who is helping to revitalize the North Broad corridor. It's a really fascinating time to have Shalimar here, given that this important, necessary work has been given even more importance and prominence and critical nature given the pandemic, and as she is working with her team to reestablish North Broad as the workshop of the world. So just a few credentials on her impressive list. In her previous role as the Executive Director of African American Chamber of Commerce, Shalimar helped to raise membership dramatically, with member African American owned businesses given the opportunity to have a voice in legislation that affected them, and helped to connect those businesses with over $300 million in contract opportunities. She's been recognized as a woman on the move by the city of Philadelphia, a Philadelphia Business Journal 40 Under 40 awardee, an influential African American leader by the Philadelphia Tribune, and many more. So with their sites on North Broad from City Hall up to Germantown Avenue, North Broad Renaissance, seeks to partner with community stakeholders to revitalize the community, create opportunity, and improve economic power and overall quality of life along one of Philadelphia's most prominent corridors. And before I give way to Shalimar, as you have questions, please put them in the chat. We'll have an opportunity to ask questions afterwards, and if you'll put them in the chat, we'll read them out at the end. So please join me in welcoming Shalimar Thomas.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me to present and share today. It's a beautiful fall morning. I don't know about anybody else, but this is my absolute favorite time of the year, that transition between summer and fall. So I'm loving this time, even though we're still dealing with coronavirus and everything going on in our world today. I try to find those little things, and this is not that little, this is major for me. And it's a beautiful day and a beautiful time right now. Again, as mentioned, my name is Shalimar Thomas, and I'm the executive director for the North Broad Renaissance, the nonprofit supporting revitalization efforts along North Broad Street from City Hall to Germantown Avenue. We will learn more about the North Broad Renaissance and our work in a few, but for now, I would really love to learn about who's on this Zoom by asking just a question, one question, and you can just type your answers in the chat. But I wanted to see how many people here have ever been on North Broad, and if so, where was it and what was the reason? And while you're thinking about that, and again, have you ever been on North Broad, and if so, where and what was the reason? And while people are responding and chatting, I'll give a little bit background about myself. One thing Eli left out is that I am a true Philly girl. I grew up in Philly. I grew up at Broad and Erie, right around the Broad, Germantown and Erie section. And I spent a lot of time on North Broad Street. I remember when the 14 was the C, I caught the subway. Some people may call it the Broad Street line, but I got around in the sub. It was the go-to mode of transportation. Even when I finally got a car, I remember catching the subway. It was just quicker and easier. I went to community college for 2 years and then transferred to Temple for 2 more years. And, just a Philly girl at heart. So I'm really familiar. I spent a lot of days and nights on North Broad, and I'm just excited to work in the community where I grew up. So I see some chats coming in. Let's see. So we have a grad student, Temple alum, absolutely. Oh, Michael Kemi attended a concert at the Met, which is beautiful. It's so unfortunate that that beautiful building is just sitting there. I can't wait for things to get back to normal. Oh, the architecture project on the Bury building. Yes, Matt, Michelle, PCA, yep. Einstein, I was born at Einstein. True Philly girl. Concerts at the Met. I love that people were enjoying concerts at the Met. Temple, thanks for the CCP shout out. Absolutely. I tell people, especially students looking for colleges now, go to community first. Like, go there first, figure it out. It was the best decision. I struggled so much at community college, and I was happy just to get a C, because that transition from high school to college is just a lot. But it prepared me, and by the time I got to Temple, and this is no, stab at Temple at all, but I was good, and I graduated magna cum laude from Temple, and it was like community provided that foundation. So Absolutely. So the Met Temple Law, Marla owned a house in Fairmount before my babies came. I live in Brewerytown now, so not that far from Fairmount. So yeah, I'm glad that a lot of people on here are familiar with North Broad, and I hope that I can share some more context about the work that we're doing, and hopefully get some more of you along one of Philadelphia's most prominent corridors in Philadelphia. So can we get to the slides? Thank you. And if we can go to the overview slide, there we go. I can just talk about, today I plan to share the following, provide information about the North Broad Renaissance, give background on how we got to focus on inclusive economic development. I'll share some data. We'll talk about what we think a potential solution could be to equity along the corridor, and why now? You know, why is this the best time to implement these strategies? We'll go into our creative space project and how that fits into the work. I think I saw Heidi here, so she was really helpful with that creative space project and helping us connect to AOS. We were sad we couldn't work with the Community Design Collaborative, but it was a success, and Heidi was very instrumental in that. So thank you, Heidi. I'll share details on how you can get involved. And while we have a Q&A at the end, I would love if this was more conversational. I'm not a talk lecturer. Sorry, David. I know we have some professors here, but that is not me. And so I would love to have a conversation. So if you have questions, please don't feel like you have to wait until the end to ask. And I know the team from DAG is going to help me with that. So next slide. So things to ponder. This is a quote from one of my favorite authors and activists. Anyone who has ever struggled with poverty knows how extremely expensive it is to be poor. I think this speaks to the full struggle of what it means to live in poverty and constantly not being able to afford basic necessities. And I think we really saw the impact of this during COVID-19. It was really in your face, things that we may have been able to ignore or disregard before. This virus and the challenges that we're facing right now with civil unrest and everything that we're going through in 2020 has forced us to pay attention and to make changes as it relates to how we think, how we interact in our communities, and how we are all responsible to one degree or another for being an advocate. So next slide. Could you go back one? There we go. About the North Broad Renaissance. The North Broad Renaissance is a nonprofit that serves as a special service district on North Broad from City Hall to Germantown Avenue. In partnership with the community stakeholders, we are revitalizing the community, creating opportunities and improving the economic power and overall quality of life along North Broad Street. We accomplished this through 4 programs: our Clean and Safe program and keeping North Broad aesthetically appealing and creating a clean environment for residents, visitors, and businesses. And landscaping, which maintains and improves green space along North Broad. Marketing and communications, which markets North Broad to the community and visitors and communicate with stakeholders, and economic development and ensuring strategic and diverse business attraction, business retention, and business development. And I'll say that during the COVID-19, when things really came ahead, our marketing and communication program really proved to be vital, as it created challenges on how we communicated with our businesses. And the fact that our marketing program had to we wanted to be on multiple platforms that really served a true purpose during the coronavirus, because we were online, we weren't on the streets, we were, you know, we tried to be everywhere. And so when that person-to-person mode shut down, and we were trying to figure out how we would manage when everything's closed down, that online presence really helped us get resources to the businesses and helped us connect to businesses in a way that if we did not have that, we don't know how we could have helped. So however, and the process of getting to these programs was not random at all. It was done strategically and in partnership with the community. And I'll talk about that more later. Next slide. Here's an infographic from 2019 showing North Broad by the numbers. As you can see, population is growing. There's tons of development and growth opportunities. And on average, people are poor. The median income is a little more than $15,000 a year. So when I saw this infographic and I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at that $2 billion development, I want to know what that means for this group over here making $15,000 a year. How can we make this $2 billion in development work for this group so we can change this narrative? Can we stop? I want to stop here and just open it up for chat. As people look at this infographic, is there anyone surprised by what they see? Do you have any feedback or observations you want to share? I would love to see comments on it, if there's any. If it's not shocking, we can move on. If there's nothing that pops out to you, we can definitely move on. Okay.
I'm just going to leap in and say, I think you're not getting many questions because I'm afraid we're not terribly surprised to see that there's that disparity. I mean,
Yeah. Michelle, she mentioned that the median home income is 15 and the average home price is 129. I remember looking at that as well, and like really trying to figure out, when I look at data, I'm trying to figure out how it relates to me, right? Or the average person, you know, am I looking at this? Is it like, wow, $2 billion, great, $2 billion, but what does that really mean for me or the average person living in the community? And I did the same thing with the house, like, okay, median home value, you know, how does that relate? You know, how do we get that person that makes 15,000 can't necessarily afford a house for 129, or am I reading this right? So I noticed that too, Michelle. Population growth, yeah. Goes against a lot of narratives you might hear about the area. And I think a lot of that also has to do with, you know, this is a strong student population as well. We have the university, we have the health system on the campus. So, and I have to also note that these numbers are within our census tract. So they're not just along North Broad, they do cover some blocks east and west. While our focus is just North Broad, these numbers do capture the areas, some areas east and west. They cover the entire census tract. Thank you. So next slide. Michelle asked about the unemployment rate. We do have the unemployment rate in the full State of North Broad report. And if you ever wanted to look at that, the 2020 State of North Broad report, it is on our website at at northbroad.org. The 70% jobs and ads and meds. You know, I'm not shocked by that because ads and meds was driving the Philadelphia industry for a long time. What happens to me is when I look at that, it's a lack of diversity. And it's one of the reasons we talked about these, and I'll go more into districts later, but how important it is to have diversity even amongst industries, because if one of these industries closed down, it could be devastating for the whole community. And so we saw that when Hahnemann closed down. and unemployment rate dropped a lot along the corridor. And so again, if we have more diversity in where two industries are not driving job creation, we can probably have more of a better impact if something was to happen to one of those industries. So how we got here, the creation of the North Broad Renaissance was born out of a concern and desire of Council President Darrell Clark to give more attention and support to North Broad Street. Specifically, there was a great need to support and oversee the community revitalization along the North Broad corridor. As a result, the organization North Broad Renaissance was created and is now organized as a voluntary special service district for this particular section of the city. This means that donations, and we do not tax our businesses, donations and sponsorships are provided to the organization, and those donations and sponsorships helps us execute on our 4 programs. So how do we get into the 4 programs? As I mentioned, this was not random. We did not just say this is what the community needs. We literally hit the streets. We collected over 150 surveys and spoke to dozens of others and asked, what would you like to see from this organization? And we took the top 4 responses and our 4 programs were created. The first program we implemented was marketing. Again, we wanted to make sure our presence was there. We wanted to make sure the community knew who we were, how to get involved, how to stay engaged, and what we wanted to work on. And then we implemented our Clean and Safe program. It was our largest contract we have ever awarded, and it was to an African-American woman-owned business, Black-owned business, and that operated in North Philadelphia, and she's really committed to hiring from the community. And now she's, all over the city, really instrumental in the Councilwoman Parker's Taking Care of Business Initiative, Trina Benjamin, and TWB Cleaning. And we see that she's able to hire people from all over the community. And what that means for things like our Clean and Safe program is that these jobs, they don't necessarily require a lot. Be reliable, be able to work when it's really hot, be able to work when it's really cold, and do a good job. And so the barriers to entry are really low, and these type of programs are providing, real livable wage jobs to the people in the community. We followed, our next program we implemented was maintenance and landscaping. We maintain about 61 planting beds along the corridor. And then the final program we started to work on this year, and within our key focus within our next 5 years is executing economic development, and what this program will look like. We'll get into that. Next slide. So because of the data and the inequity that exists along the corridor, equity and economic development had to be more than buzzwords that we put in grant applications. We had to really look at the situation and say, what do we really need to do to change this situation and drive real impact? Next slide. And so this says the solution. I don't want to say it's the solution. It's not the solution. It's a solution, because it's a lot that we have to think about to tackle this whole issue of equity. But one of the solutions that we're thinking of at the North Broad Renaissance is something we're calling employment districts along the corridor. Let me back up and say that I just want to be clear. When we went into the community, they didn't say, we want economic development to be a program. They didn't say that. They said, we want jobs. And so in turn, the North Broad Renaissance put that under what we call our economic development program. And because of the data, we understand that what jobs may mean in the southern end of North Broad around Spring Garden and Fairmount and Collar Hill, what jobs may mean there may be very different from what jobs means for Girard, Lehigh, Broadenary, Allegheny, right? So we thought, how do we leverage this early stage of development that's happening on North Broad so that we can see inclusive job growth and job creation across the district. And one of the ways we think this can happen is with the employment districts, and each district consisting of the tech district, the arts and culture district, the business district, and the health district. Next slide. So this is sort of a map of where each location is, each district is located. It may look like the numbers where you see 1, 2, 3, and 4, that's where the districts are. 1 is the tech district, 2 is the arts and culture district, 3 is the business district, and 4 is the health district. So it may look like there's a gap, but it's not. That's just where 2 is where the arts and culture district starts. So, and I'll get into details about that later, but I just wanted to show the map and just explain that there's not a gap in where development and these goals are taking place is across the corridor. Next slide. Next slide. Thank you. So the first is the tech district. The tech district is located near the Broad and Spring Garden area. If you are familiar with this area, you know that Neutrality Data Center is less than a block south of Broad and Spring Garden, the second largest data hub on the East Coast. And Nurse Street Gamers actually just secured space in that building. In addition, you have the Altera Property Group recently secured a loan to move forward with a $180 million mixed-use project on the northwest corner of Broad and Spring Garden. And then there's the proposed Mural West project on the northeast corner of Broad and Spring Garden. So there's a lot of development going on. And before COVID hit, if you were there, if you were at Broad and Spring Garden at 3 o'clock, you also realize that this is a huge education hub. You had the school district headquarters there. There are 6 high schools within the 2-block radius. You had Mathematics Civics Charter, SLA, Benjamin Franklin, Parkway Center City, Franklin Learning Center, and Masterman, like literally within blocks and across the street from each other. And then you also have Harrisburg University and Community College in the area. So it's a huge education hub. And so around the time where I was just learning like what was going on, I think I was literally on the subway at 3 o'clock with all the students. And just taking it all in and thinking about how there was this huge push to get more Black and Brown students in science and technology, engineering, math, and the STEM or STEAM programs. And, you know, while they're learning it in the classroom, I thought, you know, wouldn't it be great if they saw the context of tech? And these students who are learning about science, technology, engineering, and math inside the classroom see the possibilities on their way to and from school. How great it would be if we can work to get tech businesses in these developments. Development is happening right there on the corner of Broad and Spring Garden. And at the very least, by doing that, we can provide context for the students in this area. They now see what they're learning in their communities when they're walking to and from school. And at the most, maybe these businesses can even work with the students in the area and provide, or the educational institutions in the area, and provide internships and employment opportunities. And so just like that, through development, we're creating opportunities for students from all over the city. You know, the students that attend Masterman, Franklin Learning Center, Benjamin Franklin, SLA, Mathematics, they come from all over the city. And now they're exposed to the things that they're learning in the classroom. They see it in their communities. Next slide. Next, I want to talk about the Arts and Culture District, which is anchored by the Met and the Uptown Theater. So it's between I'll say Broaden, Fairmount area up to Broaden, Susquehanna. And there's an opportunity to attract additional businesses that complement the arts and culture businesses in this area, while also providing cultural experiences for the community and the visitors, and allowing the area to take advantage of Philly's once booming, hopefully we can see it boom again, hospitality and tourism industry. And one thing I realized is that even with the COVID-19 pandemic and coronavirus, and with us being in quarantine and having to practice social distancing and wear masks, people still want that outdoor experience. They still want to do things. People could not wait. When the Barnes Foundation opened up, they were excited. When the Art Museum opened up, they were excited. If you even go on Kelly Drive in the Art Museum area right now, it is booming. People are still out. People are still enjoying themselves, whether it's through fitness and recreation or just being out. I remember when I was there, I saw someone using the phone, and I think they were doing some type of scavenger hunt on their phone, because you can see they were like looking at their phone and trying to find things. And so I think we still find ways to interact even in this pandemic. And so having an arts and culture district along the corridor will not only be beneficial to the residents, because now they have something to do in their communities. What you see on this page is the North Poles, the purple poles, that's what they're called. If you did not know, with the poles on down the middle of North Broad, they are called the North Poles. They are public art fixtures along the North Broad corridor. So you see the North Poles, and you also see we did the beach on North Broad, the pop-up beach, right in the middle of North Philadelphia, which was amazing. And people loved it, you know, and these are the type of experience that we want to bring, and businesses that we want to bring to the corridor, not just for the community and visitors, but there's, again, this is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and we want to see those dollars start to flood up north along the North Broad corridor. And when you talk about money like that, you're talking about, again, equitable job creation for the entire community. Next slide. The next slide is your business district. The business district is between Susquehanna and Allegheny, which can help activate and energize that area while connecting Temple University to the Temple Health System. If you know the area that I'm talking about between Susquehanna and Allegheny, it's really quiet. It's not a lot of energy, and it is this gap that exists along the corridor. And so typically, business districts play host to both small and large businesses. Both are known to not always require employees that have college degrees, but just specific skill sets. And so in this way, by being proactive and attracting your professional service industries here, your other small businesses here, you not only provide employment opportunities for students at Temple University, but in that area, while many of the residents may not have college degrees, they are employed, they do work. So they offer certain skill sets to those looking to hire. And so that's the goal of the business district, to attract various small businesses, professional service businesses to this area, to connect the university and the health system so that area is not so quiet and void. And to also energize the area and provide job creation, not just to Temple University students, but also to residents in the community. Next slide. Last but not least is the health district, which is located between Broad and Allegheny and Broad and Germantown Avenue. And so if you know the area, you know that Temple Health System sits right there. This is also one of Philadelphia's unhealthiest areas. And I remember thinking about, you know, how do we provide employment for this area if half the community is already out on sick leave, if half of the community is already dealing with COPD, or heart disease, and various challenges with chronic illnesses. And so we can't really talk about employment until we talk about changing the health narrative for the community. But if you know the area, it does not stay healthy. You have fast food restaurants, you have beer distributors. It's a high crime area. It's not clean. We're trying to do our best to keep North Broad clean, but and other community organizations like the North Broad Renaissance, we're working in partnership with them to keep the whole Broad Germantown area clean. But you saw what happened in that area also during the riots. And so one way that we want to be strategic about development, you have the shift building, you have the shift project in the Bury taking place, and it's going to include commercial and mixed use. So how do we think about making sure those businesses support the health and well-being of the community? And then how do we take that on a greater scale? And one thing I saw, and I read this either in Ohio or Iowa, I get those two confused when I was doing just reading stuff, and they created, they worked with their legislator to create a health ordinance in an area where there was a school. It was a school in the area, and the students had no choice but to go out for lunch because the school did not have an indoor cafe. But what they realized is that when the students went out, they didn't have a lot of healthy options to choose from at lunch. And so they worked with their elected officials to create this ordinance that supported healthy food establishments to come into the area. And I said, wow, wouldn't that be something great for the proposed health district and for the community, where at least 50%, and I'm just throwing a number out there, but it is something that we do want to work with our legislators on, 50% of ordinance that says 50% of all businesses that locate to the area must support the health and well-being of the community. And what if, thinking about what if this was in place before now, this community wouldn't be plagued with fast food restaurants and beer distributors on every other corner. That's the idea of the health district. Again, how do we be strategic about getting more healthy businesses in the area to change the health narrative for this community? This photo was of an outdoor pop-up we did during Philly Free Streets. It was called Slay Like Bae, Slay Like Beyonce, and it was an outdoor dance and fitness event led by Alexis Rose, who's a fitness instructor. And it proved that context matters in communities. I remember people working out and saying, I haven't worked out in years. Like, I can't remember the last time I worked out. And this was so much fun. And they were also excited that it was being led by a Black woman, people who looked like them. And so they felt like they could be, it was for them. And they felt comfortable being a part of that. And I remember standing next to a guy, and even the people who didn't join in, it was people on the sidelines, watching. And I remember this one guy turned to me and he said, I really need to work out. Perfect. At least, even if he didn't join in, at least now he's thinking about, I really need to work out, And so it's things like that says that, reminds us that contexts do matter when we are thinking about development. Next slide. Oh, I see a couple questions. I'm sorry. I was on a roll. I'm sorry, everybody. Let me see if I can catch up here.
No reason to apologize. I'm writing them down, and we'll come back to them at the end if you prefer.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, we can do
whatever you like. We can do it either way.
That's fine. So I'll go into, okay, we're at the next slide. So overall, more than 60% of new, completed, or projects in progress include commercial or mixed-use developments along the corridor. We have about 50 projects taking place right now, and while some are on hold because of coronavirus, about 60% of them will include commercial or mixed use development. The businesses that locate in these developments will create the narrative for the community. This includes the type of jobs that become available and the overall quality of life that's provided to the community. Next slide. I did want to talk about the Creative Space Project briefly and how it relates to this effort. Thanks to the support from the William Penn Foundation, the North Broad Renaissance, in partnership with the community, eConsult Solutions, and AOS Architects, we conducted a planning study to research the feasibility of creative spaces within each district. The goal of the planning study is to inspire outdoor activation that allows public space to be used in an innovative way, enabling residents and visitors to benefit physically, culturally, and economically. In other words, we wanted to show arts, tech, health, business in the outdoor space in each district and created interventions to do that. The small picture, I know it's small, but here you can see one of the interventions, and this is in the health district, which transforms a vacant lot into a tranquil park that includes a historic mural, rotating health services, and a green seating area. In addition, you'll see a little green path that's actually a jogging path on the sidewalk that people can use. And so we did these interventions in each district. And if I had a photo, sorry I don't, but like in the tech district, we included bus shelters where residents or people waiting for the bus, they can use touch screen on the shelters to see what's the ETA of their bus. There was seating in the tech district where you can sit on the seats, and it was LED seating, and you can control the mood. Like you can, log onto an app on your phone, and while you're sitting there, you can change the colors and control the mood in the seating. So we tried different things throughout the district and different ways to implement interventions that matched each district. And so what we wanted to do, because I think the numbers are somewhere maybe 30,000 cars drive down North Broad daily, and 112,000 SEPTA riders are on North Broad daily. And so how do we use that and use North Broad to create this stage, so to speak, to have these creative spaces up? When we did the beach on North Broad, a lot of people came in not because they heard it on the news or saw it on social media, but driving by and couldn't believe that they were seeing a beach. And so they stopped and they wanted to see what was going on. And they asked, well, is this free? And it's like, yes. And how long will it be open? So I remember having those conversations with a lot of people. Next slide. A place of equity. Overall, the district works to change the narrative that low income and poor quality of life go hand in hand. Listen, good quality of life to me is a basic human right. I remember wondering and getting into this work thinking like, why is it that poor and poor quality of life go hand in hand? Clean streets, good community, good schools. These are basic human rights that anybody should have, regardless of race and income levels. So how do we change that? Next slide. And so the desired results of each district include business retention. We do want to understand the impact that COVID-19 has played on businesses. So we want to help at least 20% of businesses along North Broad sustain beyond the COVID-19 pandemic. Also, business attraction. Be proactive about attracting businesses that will create employment for the community and support the overall quality of life. Improve quality of life regardless of income. I want to be clear. We want to change that narrative of a $15,000 income. We want to change that. But in the meantime, we want to provide a good quality of life for everyone. By complementing outdoor activation with commercial development, not only do businesses benefit, but the community benefits. And equitable job creation and creating employment opportunities for mixed skill set levels with priority given to residents who live within North Broad Census Tract. Next slide. Here we go. And so we invite you to stay involved and engaged by signing up for our newsletter, which is accessible by our website. Next slide. And here is additional information. You can reach us at northbroad.org. That's where you can sign up for the newsletter. You can call us or you can email us at northbroad.org. Next slide. And here are our social media channels. We are on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And if you notice on the side of the presentation, we use the hashtag ThinkBroad. So even if you just type in that hashtag, you'll find information about the North Broad Renaissance. And I think that's it. Thank you for allowing me. I talked a lot more than I wanted to, but I am super passionate about this and I can go on and on and on. And so thank you for tolerating, tolerating that. And I guess we can look at the questions now.
That's lovely. Thank you, Shalimar. I'm going to I'll read questions as they come in. And first question up from George Claflin. What can Temple University do as a partner? What has it done as a partner? And I'm going to sort of couple it with. It seems to me that it struck me that you don't identify an education district as one of the districts, and it's sort of the elephant in the room.
Yeah, I think we don't identify it because it's pretty much there. So we do identify that we have educational institutions, right?
Yeah.
University is a major anchor institution along the corridor. It's there already. The purpose of the districts is to see what's not there and how do we leverage the development, the early stages of development to make sure that it's inclusive. Temple University is a great partner. Depending on who we're working with. Unfortunately, Temple doesn't work together. You know, it's different hubs across Temple University. And I think that's one of the challenges is that, you know, I can work with one person and even if they're in the same department, they may know what we're doing. And so that's the biggest challenge. You know, how do we get on a collective platform to work with the university in a way that's a win-win for both. You know, I definitely understand that, you know, Temple, their priority are the students, right? From a business aspect, their priority has to be the students. Okay, how do we work together so that the community is also benefiting from your presence, you know? And it was, you know, that the history of Temple is that it was, what it was at the Diamonds in a Rough, which is where the whole, and that they wanted to really work with.
Yes, right.
I think,
Field of Diamonds.
Right, a field of diamonds. And so, you know, how do we get back to that history and that culture? And I think that's the best way we can work with Temple.
A couple of questions from Michelle Soul. Has there been a skills set survey of North Broad Street? I'm actually not sure exactly what that is. Michelle, can you explain what that is?
Sure, thanks, David. Skill sets are things that students come out of college with, but I was thinking more of what Shalimar was talking about in terms of skills that people have that aren't necessarily college educated skills. And it might be something as simple as, okay, well, I've cleaned apartments. Okay, that's actually a skill. Or I've cleaned homes. Or I've cleaned up empty lots. That's a skill. And a lot of people don't even think of what their skills are.
Yeah. That's a great point. I would say that we haven't thought of that yet, and we are not there. And I think that may be a great project for something like the workforce development agencies that exist across the city. One thing that the Department of Commerce is doing with the Taking Care of Business project, which I think is great, is so holistic. And they're looking at it where they're not just looking for people to hire for the project. They're looking at it and saying, how can these individuals realize that this is a starting ground and they can use this and go somewhere else? And so they're working with the people who are interviewing to help them develop and understand how to share their skill set, which is great. We had so many great testimonies. I remember before COVID-19, this was last year, we would do outreach and we would hire people from the community to do it. And again, you didn't really need too much. You just had to come on time. We had certain things, and we would pay like $50 stipends for every outreach. That's one thing we wanted to change too. I realized that if we're going to change the narrative around poverty, we have to stop asking people in poverty to do stuff for free.
Just one other comment. I think that collecting skill sets or asking people about their skill sets is also it builds self-esteem.
Yeah.
Think they can't do anything. And then we start to list things that they actually can do.
Yeah. Yeah. And this one woman who came to do the outreach, she, you had to send your email. You had to email us to tell us, what was going on. And I remember she kept asking me, like, did you get my email? She was very excited. Like, did you get my email? Did you get my email? And I was like, I don't know. I have to check and see. And I couldn't remember, realize, why is she so excited about sending this email? And then she finally said, this is the first email I ever sent. So, and it came from volunteering in your community, So it was like, now she knows how to send an email. One of our cleaners actually got hired by the Labor District Council because the president, she cleaned in front of their area. That was her assigned area. She was there on time. She was pleasant. She talked to people, and the president would always see her and he would talk to her. He needed a receptionist. And he said, hire her. Just like that. She went from being one of our cleaners to now a receptionist at the Labor District Council, working the front desk. So those are real skills. And I think you're right. I think it takes helping people who we're working with understand how these skill sets can grow into something more. I think you're absolutely right.
I've got a question here from Keith Burke about if there are updates on the North Broad Street BID, Business Improvement District proposal.
Yes, it is on hold indefinitely because of the virus. I can't in good faith move forward with something that's going to provide an additional tax burden to businesses right now. We just can't. And so, like I said, we operate as a special service district, and we'll work with, we hire some consultants. And so we'll continue to see how do we continue that special service district model until the economy starts to pick back up and we can revisit this idea of a bid. But for now, the bid is on hold.
And if just to follow, and so your current financial model, it's entirely voluntary contributions?
Yes.
Is that a 501? Are you a nonprofit, or these?
We are a nonprofit. So contributions, donations, sponsorship, grants. Grants are like 90% of our revenue. But yeah.
Actually, going back to another question from Michelle Saul. Can you talk about the impact of the food trust? Michelle, is that another thing? Perhaps you need to explain what it is.
Well, the Food Trust is an organization that helps turn corner stores selling, unhealthy packaged foods into real beneficial corner
Got
stores
it.
for the community. Sorry.
Yeah. The only thing we've done with the food trust was when they had the night markets, which is no longer in existence. It was a great night market that was done on Fairmount Ave, which was.
Shalimar, what's a night market?
Oh, the night market is with the food trust where they bring vendors out to a certain section of the city, and it's like a street fair. And you go and you patronize the businesses and the vendors, and you eat and you walk around and you look at entertainment, and it's the best time you could ever have, especially when the weather cooperates.
We have a question on the always thorny issue of gentrification, which certainly is an issue maybe in the southern part of the district, and I certainly see it stretching westward from Temple into the residential neighborhoods to the west. It's the old question: gentrification, friend or foe? Kind of.
I know. I don't know. Gentrification is bad when it's used to exploit people, yeah, and for displacement. So, if you're a developer and you can do it without exploiting people, and you can do it in a way that can help, just understanding that, some communities need a little bit more help, need a little bit more assistance. And if you can provide that in a way that's inclusive, then do it. I think that is that simple. But if your intentions are to exploit and to displace, then that's where the problem comes in. Yeah.
Project Home has been active in the North Broad corridor. Any reflections on their work?
No, we haven't had a chance to work with Project Home yet.
Oh. I think we have heard about some projects that are about to get started on North Broad.
Yeah, like I said, there's 51 projects that's either complete, starting, under progress. So it's a lot of development happening right now on North Broad.
Yeah. Other questions? I think I've gone through the ones that I've seen in the chat. I think we're at this point we're down to 40 or so people. If you have a question, please unmute yourself or wave or something. Eli, I'm going to send it back over to you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shalimar. Really appreciate you spending some time and giving us some insight.
You can all unmute yourselves and cheer at this point. Unmute yourselves and cheer.
Please.
Yay, hooray, hooray, thank you.
Thank you, Shalimar.
Thank you.
I will say my North Broad spot is Gabby at Callow Hill and Broad. Chef Kenny Bush does a fine job. So that was my first dining out experience in COVID, was to go up to North Broad and support him in that restaurant. So it's good to see them doing that. But thank you again. It's really wonderful to have you here, and we will keep an eye on all the things you're doing, and hope to have you back sometime in the near future.
Thank you. And speaking of Gabby and Chef Brad, who I love, just a reminder, we do have our gift card match program going on right now to support businesses, any business, not just restaurants. If they accept a gift card, if they sell gift cards, the North Broad Renaissance will match purchases of gift cards up to $100, thanks to the support of the Fulton Forward Foundation and Fulton Bank. We have up to $15,000 that we can match in gift card purchases, which can mean potentially a $30,000 reinvestment back into North Broad businesses. So if you purchase a gift card from Gabby, email us and we'll help you get that match.
That's great.
Sounds good.
It sounds like something that when we send out our next e-blast talking about what's coming up next, we can report that this video has been posted, and maybe give some of that information. If that would be great.
Sounds good. Well, thank you, everyone. I think we'll end it here, and we will see everyone hopefully on September 30th for our evening event. Have a good day.
I am now stopping recording.